Welcome to the Thrive Careers Podcast, the show that helps you move your career confusion to career success, hosted by the extraordinary Olajumoke Fatoki. Each episode is packed with expert insights, real-life stories, and practical strategies to help you land your dream job, level up, and build a career you love. No more guesswork, just clear, actionable steps to help you thrive. If you're ready, let's jump right into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful episode of the Thrive Careers Podcast. My name is Olajumoke Fatoki, and I'm a career coach and an HR professional. You already know what I'm passionate about is helping you guys grow, thriving career in every step of the way. And today's episode is not going to be any different. We have an amazing guest. I'm so glad that we have her. She's not one that you can easily find, but she made our time to join us on this episode. So you guys be ready for all that this episode has in store. So I'm just going to briefly introduce our guest and then we'll just get into the flow today. All right. So today's episode, we have Sonia Price, who is a future of work strategist. She's an executive brand expert and a career acceleration coach who has helped professionals at Google, Meta, Microsoft, and beyond land promotions, pivot in their careers, and to also build personal brands that run heads. She's the founder of Infinite Leaders and Dynamo Careers, and she spent over 15 years helping high achievers future-proof their careers, increase their influence, and navigate change with confidence. So if you've been wondering how to stand out in today's world of AI and how to lead with presence or how to make power moves without burning out, I can assure you that this episode is for you because she's going to walk us through how to future-proof your career with a tool that she has created, and she's going to tell us more about that as we proceed. So, guys, I'll just say to you, buckle up because Sonia, she's not here to sugarcoat anything. She's actually here to set you up for long-term success. And you already know that's what we're about on our podcast. So over to you, Sonia. We're happy and excited to have you. Do you want to say something to our guests before we get started?
I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Amazing. I have this fun question that I like to ask our guests, and it's just built around what we do on Thrive Careers podcast. So think about it for a moment. If your career journey were to be a movie, what would the title be and why?
The Fast and the Furious.
Fast and Furious. Interesting. Tell us more.
Oh, no, I've always been very dedicated and eager, and I like quick results, and I'm very, very involved and like to help drive things forward. Yeah, just keeping things moving and very eager to cause and celebrate results.
Amazing. I love it. That's a very special title. Thank you for sharing that with us, and I love it. All right, so we'll just get into our core conversation for today. So, are you ready?
I am. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So, tell us, what does it mean to future-proof your career? And why do you think it is more urgent now than ever?
Yeah, well, we are all seeing the rapid changes in the job market that are happening right now. As more and more AI tools and strategies come online, we are seeing a lot of companies that are doing layoffs and have been doing layoffs for several years now. We're in a very volatile job market. Throughout the pandemic, recovering from the pandemic, and then, now just having a lot of changes with AI and also, ways that politics are changing the world of work for us as well. Future-proofing your career means having a very strong and intentional strategy about where you want to go and how you're going to brand yourself appropriately so that you always have opportunities that come to you versus the other way around. Like, you never want to be in a position where you're chasing down jobs, where you're applying to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs, which if you don't have a job, oftentimes that's, what's required to help get the engine going again. But the best time to take a new job is when you're already employed. And so if you can have people reach out to you to present opportunities to you, then that's the best way to go. But it requires a very structured strategy to ensure that you are creating the right and relevant brand positioning that's going to automatically drive you in this direction where you will always have opportunities and have the best types of opportunities that are really truly in alignment with what you say that you want and what's really important to you over the long term as well as the short term.
And things stood out for me, in what you said, and I can very much relate with them. So you said having a very strong and intentional strategy. I think if we're looking for keywords, those would be the two keywords, in future proving your career, having a very strong and intentional. Those are really, key call outs in building a long lasting career. So thank you so much for that. You said something I would also like for you to just briefly follow up on. So before we move to the next question, which is the best time to start another job search journey is when you're currently, in a job. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how people can do that?
Well, one, I always start with strategy. So the implementation and the activities and the follow through that are required will be much more streamlined if you have a very cohesive strategy set up to begin with. And so what I work with people on is helping to develop exactly what that short, medium, and long-term career goals and roadmap look like that will then help determine, are you in the right place right now? Is it time to take the next step? And what exactly does that next step look like? Is that a better role internally, or do you want to move external? And if you move external, what exactly does that look like? And, going from one paying job to the next paying job is always better than having a break where there's no pay coming in. Yeah, now we're not always privileged enough to be able to do that because layoffs happen all the time. And, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason as to exactly why that happens. So it's, not something to take personal. If that happens, it's very rarely ever personal. It's, usually some big business decision that got made. But even then, you always want to have yourself in a position that if a surprise like that did come, that you already have a very clean, clear, cohesive strategy, and that you already have the right professional branding materials in place to help you very quickly accelerate your process. So if you do have to search for a job tomorrow, you want to always just have the right things in place so that, one, people are naturally drawn to you. You always want a recruiter to reach out to you versus the other way around. You're going to get way better yield rate and results. But even if you do have to get out there and search for work, always have everything kind of already queued up and ready to go so that you're not starting behind the 8 ball. You're not starting from scratch. You already know what you're doing, what you're going after. And, sometimes all it takes is, activating a few people in your network. And then other times you do have to apply for jobs or, work with recruiters or hire someone to apply for jobs for you. And get that ball rolling.
And I completely agree with you because, we keep waking up to the news every day, the massive layoffs, going on in different places. So, it's only smart and strategic to be prepared, before it ever gets to your doorstep. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. So my next question is, what are some of the biggest mistakes that high achieving professionals make when trying to get promoted or to pivot in their careers?
It's such a great question because I think that most professionals do not really pause to ask themselves that question. And most of us tend to rely on our merits to help us get promoted. And you have to have the results. Generally, you're not going to get promoted unless you have the results to show for it. But are the right people aware of the results that you are generating? And that is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is that many people are very modest and they don't want to toot their own horn. But it's actually your job and your responsibility to ensure that you're getting exposure for your success. And not only getting exposure, but making sure that you're getting exposure in front of the right people. So who are the right people? right, I don't want to say right or wrong people. It's not black and white like that. But you do want to be thinking about who are the key decision makers, who are the ones who can provide opportunities to you and can actually suggest you be the one to take that opportunity. So, it's generally your manager or even your manager's manager, and sometimes going higher up the leadership chain. But you definitely want your leaders and your peers across different teams, your peers on your team, but also peers on other teams. Like, you want people to know what your results are, because then the opportunities are more likely going to come to you. And the more results that you can generate, it can kind of become a snowball effect, that the more results that you generate, the more opportunities come your way. And the bigger and better opportunities where you can be more strategic or actually have wider reaching impacts. And when you have those kinds of results, that's generally where the even more senior level opportunities come from.
Amazing, amazing. And I hear you, but I also know that, sometimes people think that showing some of those results is like you trying to suck up to your boss, or to just try to gain their favor, and stuff like that. So how do people cut through that noise and, just ensure that they are letting the right people, like you rightly said, to notice some of the great things that they are doing and the result that they have been able to deliver on the role?
Mm-hmm. Again, such a great question, because really, you don't want to be sucking up to your boss. Nobody wants that. And it feels horrible doing that yourself, right? But making your manager look good will always help, right? So if you can showcase your results as their results as well, right? And it's not that you're letting them take credit for the work that you do, but showcasing that, like, your results happened under this person's team, and then actively asking for opportunities to showcase those results at a higher level. So sometimes that means you're asking for a seat at the table. Like, you want, you're collaborating with your manager to let them know the results that you have had around the key initiatives and the key projects that your team and your overarching organization are marching towards, that they have goals and you're helping them achieve these goals. And so then, oftentimes your manager will be the one to present the accumulative results across the team to their peers and their leadership team. But sometimes you can actually ask for opportunities for you to be the one to showcase the results that you created in your part of the project or your part of the initiative. So actively asking for those opportunities to be seen in front of the right people, where you can also show them that you have executive presence, that you understand, what the organization is up to, what these teams are up to, and your part in it. And it never comes across as sounding like a suck up when you are singing the praises of what the entire organization is doing together, or that it was a team effort. And if you can talk about, it was a team effort and this is what we did, but also being clear what your part in that was, and not gloating or spending too much time on your part, but like sharing the success and sharing the win across the team. If you're the one presenting the results, the people who are listening already automatically know and assume that you are probably the person leading those results, or you had like a major role in it. And so it can come across as very humble, but yet also you can still be assertive, because in the way that you present in your executive presence, and then talking about the work that the team did, and even if you have recommendations that you're showcasing as well, people will perceive that those recommendations are coming directly from you. And if you have really smart strategic recommendations, people are going to listen and pay attention.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. I love the idea of collaborating with your line manager, making it work together. And I love the fact that you're also able to practicalize what it means in real time for you to get promoted, or what it means to be able to share your results or to show your results, prove that you're deserving of a promotion. So thank you so much for sharing that. So our next question for today is executive branding. And I feel like personally, this is one word that has been thrown around a lot. And, it would just be good to hear from your own perspective. What is executive branding, and how can someone position themselves as the obvious choice for top-tier opportunities?
Yeah. Well, your executive brand can mean a number of different things. It can mean how you show up in the presence of others, how you lead at the front of the room when you're giving a presentation, what you're wearing, what your image statement says about you. All of that can be part of your physical brand presence or how you show up in front of people. There's also more of a digital brand presence, which would include things like your resume, LinkedIn profile, various other social channels that you're on. If you write articles and where those articles are published, any credibility factors that you may have, if you have written a book or you have a YouTube channel or, any of those kinds of things. And that can just be a wide variety of different things. You don't need a book. You don't need all of those things. But what helps sell your presence and what helps sell your capabilities? Well, it kind of depends upon what your goals are. So if you want to progress into senior leadership, you need to start to showcase that you have a leadership or executive oriented brand. What that means is, what are the keywords that you would rank for? If someone is to go in and search for you inside of LinkedIn, what are the keywords that they would put in there? And do you pop up in that search? Which can mean a number of different things. It's not just having a resume. It's not just having a LinkedIn profile. In my opinion, those two things are no longer enough. Like, we're now in such a competitive job market that you have to immediately showcase how you are different than the 400 other people that are applying for the same position. Now, the good news is it actually doesn't take that much effort to you kind of elevate your status as a candidate. And some key ways that you can do this is to pay attention to, what does the featured section say on your LinkedIn profile? And assuming that your LinkedIn profile is already fully optimized and you've really taken the effort to make sure that you're really showcasing who you are and it's written in the direction that you want to be moving in your career. But then also thinking above and beyond that of, like, when someone goes to your LinkedIn profile and they take the 7 seconds, which is what the data shows us, that people take an average of 7 seconds to look at your LinkedIn profile. So what's the lasting impression that you leave that person with in those 7 seconds? Well, they're just going to scan your entire LinkedIn profile, and there's a really beautiful section on your LinkedIn profile that most people do not take advantage of, and that is your featured posts section. So if you think about your career and if you put yourself in the shoes of a thought leader in your space, what are the kinds of things that a thought leader would say about your particular profession or the direction that you want to move in your career? And, with the wonders of AI today, it does not take that much effort to create a thought piece about something. And you can be very strategic in creating these things by thinking through what are the keywords and the core skills that you want to have associated with your professional brand. And then if you orchestrate a strategy behind that and start putting content pieces out there, you don't have to go overboard on this. It's a good idea if you could post, at least once a week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. If you're like really trying to get a job, like putting yourself out there more is better, because then your profile will now be seen by more people simply because you're showing up in their feed. And if they like your content or they comment on your content, then not only will they see your future content, but their followers will also start to see your content. So there's this very nice snowball effect that happens when you're very active on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a really wonderful channel. And, without getting into too much detail, just really understanding how the LinkedIn algorithm works and how you can position yourself so that that algorithm can really work in your favor. And then you get connected to the people that you want to be connected with, which you can actually do with some very targeted outreach. You can get referrals into the top brand name companies that you want to work with and start having conversations and build and grow your network. But always make sure that you're being seen for what you need to be seen in order to take that next step in your career.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to add to something that you said about making the algorithm work for you. And what I have found in my experience is the more you get to use LinkedIn, because that's the example, the more the algorithm gets to know you, and the more you experiment with it, the more you know how to go about it and really make it work in your favor. So if you just wanted a breakdown of what it means for an algorithm to work for you, it means you need to experiment with it and then notice the trend, and then you can build on it from there. So that's what I have found to work in my experience. And I love the perspective to building executive presence. I loved that you started with your personal image, how you show up in meetings, how you appear and all of that. Because a lot of people just have this misconception that, branding or executive branding is just all about how you show up online, which is a significant part of it, but it's also, the physical presence and how you show up and how you're perceived by people. So, all right, Sonia. So you created the Future Proof Your Career assessment. What insights does it reveal? And how can listeners use it to take control of their next career move?
Absolutely. Well, the Infinite Leaders Career Assessment, the Future Proof Your Career assessment, will help you understand what are your biggest leadership strengths and where are your biggest growing edges. And then it gives you a custom plan to help you know exactly what skill set that you should be working on and developing to take your career to the next level. And I designed it myself. It's really fun. It takes less than 5 minutes to complete it. And you can find that at infiniteleaders.co/assessment. Answer a few questions that will spit out a report and give you valuable information to carry forward in your leadership journey.
What's your take on AI's role in hiring, resumes, and career development?
Wow, that remains to be seen. There's a lot of activity happening out there, and I've actually been testing a lot of the AI tools, the job-related AI tools myself. So I've tested some of the resume builders. I've tested some of the AI auto job application tools. There is a lot that's out there. Here's what I would say. The things to be like, there's a lot of tools out there, and it can help you have a great resume if you know what to look for. The challenge that I came across in evaluating these tools is that most of those tools are designed by technical people, not necessarily HR professionals, recruiters, career coaches, like all the people who know what actually works in the marketplace. And recruiters are very honed in on, is this real? Like, does this sound like a real data point? Does this sound like something that this person actually produced results in, or is it just a little bit off? And I find from a resume perspective, the AI generated content is just a little bit off. And the amount of effort that you have to put into it to edit it and make it sound right, it can definitely be used as a starting point and a thought generator, and maybe give you some good ideas on how you can restructure your brand to help you go in the right direction. But oftentimes I find that that's where career coaches come in, where, advisement from recruiters, like people who look at resumes day in, day out. What are they looking for? And does your resume say that? You still need to get the human feedback to understand. Another thing about AI is there are some AI job application tools that it will literally just take your resume and apply to open positions. And the verdict is still out on that one, in my opinion. I am testing it pretty thoroughly right now. And why I say that the verdict is still out is because there are some companies that will monitor for bot activity. And that can be seen as it's an automated activity. And sometimes they will just cancel out the application because they know that it's auto-generated. because there are people all over the world that are trying to apply for jobs in the US so that they can get inside of the company, get access to company data, and then, not necessarily have good intentions for what they're doing with their employment. So companies are actually very hesitant and guarded about that. But we don't know which companies are blocking that behavior and which companies are not blocking that behavior. So what I advise my clients to do, because it's like, if you do want to test it, you want to save some time, use those AI generated tools, but don't have it just do the auto application. There's actually ways that it will help identify what jobs it could apply to for you. And then you go through and selectively apply, select the jobs that you want it to apply to for you, and do that for your lower stakes opportunities. For the higher stakes opportunities, the ones that you're really passionate about, and you're like, oh my God, this is my dream company. If I could get a job here, that would be amazing. Take the time and effort and do a manual application and customize your resume specifically for that opportunity. And then take it a step further, which is where the human touch and the relationship building comes in, is be strategic and reach out to people inside of that organization that can refer you in for that open opportunity.
Amazing. That's an excellent way to look at it. Thank you so much. So our last question for this round is, what's one bold move every listener should consider making this month to make their career or their leadership to the next level happen?
What's one impactful action that you could take that would help you begin to implement that strategy? And that could mean, doing a refresh on your resume, revamping your LinkedIn profile, writing an article, reaching out to a network connection that maybe you might not reach out to otherwise, but take some bold actions, because you never know what will come from it.
Thank you so much for that wonderful round that we've just gone through. And now we are moving to the rapid fire question. And there's actually a relationship between the last question and this question that I'm about to ask you, which is a bold career move that scared you but paid off.
Boy.
Over to you.
Hi, my name's Naomi, and I'm the host of the Notes and Quotes podcast, a space for casual and honest conversations about everything facing young adults today. From mental health struggles to figuring out your future to navigating the climate and social justice crisis of our world. These things should not be faced alone. Come hear me share vulnerable self-reflections, realizations, and eye-opening conversations with incredible guests. This is a community by one 20-something for every 20-something. Can't wait to have you join.
Yeah, a bold career move that scared me, but I did it anyway.
Yeah.
The first one that comes to mind was actually very early on in my career, and I was working for a tech startup, and it was rapid growth. When I started working there, I was straight out of college. I barely had any experience at all whatsoever, and I got hired as a glorified admin. It was like my first professional job. But we were growing quickly and we were hiring a lot of people, and so I just kept telling the founder of the company, I said, okay, I see a need over there. I'm going to start doing this. We're going to backfill my position. And I just kind of, made these very bold suggestions to him. And I think he was grateful for it, quite honestly, because he was like, great, there's a need. Someone's doing it. Cool. Can probably hire someone for cheaper to backfill her position. But the other bold thing that came along with this is that I did end up taking a lot of responsibility. And at a certain point in time, then I had to sit down with my same boss, the founder, and said, hey, look, you hired me at this rate. And these were the responsibilities that I was accountable for at that point in time. I've now been here for this amount of time, and these are the responsibilities that I'm accountable for. And this is the impact and the results that I've made in that time frame. I've done some market research, and I found that people in this position generally make this amount of money. And I request that you do a leveling exercise and bring my salary on par with what other people in the market are making for the same level of work that I'm providing for you.
That's truly bold move.
Yeah. I think he was so impressed with it. He said, let me take some time to think about it. And he came back and he honored it and paid me. Yeah.
You'll be amazed what's on the other side of fear. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. All right. So my next rapid fun fire question is, what's one underrated skill that helps people grow their career?
Relationship building, trust building.
Amazing. So I said, what is your go-to way to open new doors of opportunities? Would it be a coffee chat or a cold pitch?
Right. Yeah. Well, if those are the only two options, I would say a coffee chat. But I think that there's actually maybe a third option that I would recommend, which would be to reach out and provide value in some sort of way. So share a resource with someone, ask how you can help or support them. Like that tends to be a much, much better way in because people care about themselves and they want their own mission and vision to move forward. They're not necessarily super eager to sign up to help you move your mission forward. But, as many wise people have said, if you help enough people get what they want, you will also get what you want. And that's just kind of the way that the energy flows. That I've seen it happen time and time again.
I love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Sonia, for this amazing session. But before we finally let you go today, I know that a lot of our listeners would definitely want to connect with you and engage with the work that you do. So do you want to share with us how can they find you?
Yeah, there's actually a couple places. So one is infiniteleaders.co. Co.co. We talked about that a little bit earlier with the Future Proof Your Career assessment. In that line of work, I help executive leadership teams have greater alignment and know how to effectively facilitate big, large-scale change inside of their organizations. For my executive branding focus, that is Dynamo Careers. And you can find us at dynamocareers.com, where we help mid to senior level career professionals identify exactly how you need to be promoting and positioning yourself in the marketplace to land the kind of roles that you desire. And then finally, feel free to just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I always love to make a new friend, and you can find me by my name, which is Sonja Price, SonjaPrice.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. So, Sonia, as we round off on this episode today, what will be your final words to all our listeners? What would you have to say to them as we close today?
I know there tends to be a lot of fear in the marketplace right now. And I've certainly had my own share of fear, and just in terms of AI and how is it shifting and changing the work that I do, my business and my team. And I think a lot of us, it is a bit of an unstable market right now. So it's hard to know what the future holds just in terms of how AI is going to impact our businesses and the work that each of us does, as well as, just the economy and how things are just rapidly changing in the job market. So some things like last parting words is to take a deep consideration for where you're at right now. Do you enjoy it? And are you okay, sticking it out there? And or how can you revise it or make it worth your while? Like if you want to stay with the same organization, how can you continue your own growth and development inside of that organization? And if you want to go somewhere else, don't let the market hold you back from having the kind of career that you want to. Because I think sometimes we can get really scared off by the metrics and we hear about layoffs and this and that and the other. Our unemployment rate is still actually quite low. And it's good to pay attention to that and be a realist, but also recognize that there's still hundreds of thousands of people that are getting hired all the time. And you can have the career that you want. It does require a strategic approach and the actions to fulfill upon that. But if you really think about that and you orchestrate that throughout your career and keep that strategy and keep that implementation going, it's not always a super heavy lift. If you do micro investments along the way, then when it's time to move into something else, whether that be internal or external, you're going to already have the network in place and you already have the brand in place. And you will most likely have a much higher level of confidence to go along with that, knowing that you're always ready and that you know what's next to you, next for you. That's where you really start to draw in and have that magnetic effect to where you're receiving the types of opportunities that you desire.
Amazing. So valuable. Thank you so much, Sonia, for such a valuable time, listening to you today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Ola.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for our listeners. I know that you've been impacted in a tremendous way today, and ensure to share this with anyone who needs to make that bold career move, who needs to future-proof their career, and anyone who is looking to go to the next level as far as their career is concerned. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you, and see you next time. And that's it for today's episode of Thrive Careers Podcast. I am Olajumoke Fataki, reminding you that no matter where you are in your career, you have the power to rewrite your story. If you've enjoyed today's insights, do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's ready to thrive. If you have questions or topics you'd like for me to cover, let's connect. I would love to hear from you. Remember, clarity creates confidence, and confidence leads to success. And until I come your way again next time, stay inspired and keep thriving.